Hello friends, Notes on English Literature, 16th and 17th century poetry. The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. Short questions with answers. Short questions 1 to 6. Question 1. What is allegory? Discuss in brief the moral and spiritual allegory in Canto 1 of the Fairy Queen, Book 1. Answer. An allegory is a detailed description of one thing under the image of another. It is a story or description in prose or verse in which ideas are symbolized in persons who are characters in the story, and the underlying meaning may be moral, religious, political, social, or satiric. Moral and spiritual allegory in the Fairy Queen deals with the action and interaction of virtues and vices. The good characters stand for the various virtues, and the bad characters stand for the corresponding vices. The Red Ghost Knight stands for holiness, and Lady Una, truth, goodness, and wisdom. Our parents symbolize human race, and the dragon who has imprisoned them stands for evil. The mission of holiness is to help truth fight evil and thus regain its rightful place in the human heart. In the course of its mission, holiness has to meet many adversaries and fight many evils. First of all, he has to encounter a terrible monster, which is error. As long as holiness is helped by truth, it is able to defeat the forces of evil. Thus, the Red Ghost Knight, encouraged by Lady Una, kills the monsters and marches ahead on his way. This is the first moral truth taught by the story. Holiness or truth may defeat error when it faces them openly without any disguise, but it proves too much for them when it confronts them in the subtle guise of hypocrisy. Archimago the magician, who symbolizes hypocrisy, is an evil in disguise. His mission is to work out sinister design and intrigues against the Red Ghost Knight, holiness, and Lady Una, truth, so that they may be separated from each other. Question 2. What religious allegory do we find in Canto 1 of the Fairy Queen, Book 1? Answer. The moral and spiritual allegory blends with the religious allegory of the book. The Reformation was the most important religious movement of the time, and in this epic, Spenser has represented it allegorically. He is a strong supporter of the Reformed Church of England, which is the only true church for him, and against papacy and the Catholic Church. Here, the Red Ghost Knight stands for the Reformed Church of England, fighting the corruption, pride, and manifold evils of papacy, paganism, and Catholicism. The parents of Lady Una represent humanity, and the foul dragon who has imprisoned them is the Pope of Rome. The monster Error, a horrible creature with a face of omen and the hind part a serpent, allegorically stands for error or mistakes which human beings make in the course of their lives. The fight of the Red Ghost Knight with the monster Error symbolizes the conflict between Protestantism and Catholicism. The books and papers vomited by Error allude to the scurrilous pamphlets directed against Queen Elizabeth by the Roman Catholics. The mission of Una, truth, is to restore her parents to freedom, and in her encounter, she is helped by the Red Ghost Knight. In other words, the people of England, the followers of the Reformed Church, had to face the combined might of Pope and Philip of Spain, and to struggle against the evil and corruptions of the Catholic Church in order to restore the true Church of England. Question 3. Trace personal and political allegory in Canto 1 of the Fairy Queen, Book 1. Answer. The moral and religious allegories are mingled with political and personal allegory in The Fairy Queen. Spencer wrote this is his epic for the allegory of for the glory of Queen Elizabeth and her courtiers, many of whom were his personal friends. She represented the pride and glory of England, and to glorify her was to glorify the nation. So in Spencer's speak, she is Gloriana, the fairy queen, who sets various adventures to her knights, symbolizing the courtiers of the Queen of England. According to political allegory, the Red Cross Knight is Saint George of England, and Lord Leicester is Prince Arthur. As the defender of faith and as the sovereign, King Henry VII is sometimes identified with the Red Cross Knight. Una stands for truth, which is represented by the National Church of England. Una's parents are the people of England who were held in subjection by the Roman Catholicism, represented by the dragon Archchrist. The Monster Hero is one of the powerful but evil forces of Roman Catholicism, while Archimago stands for Philip II of Spain, who was a Roman Catholic by faith and one who was a strong enemy of the Anglican Church. Archimago, one instrument of the separation between the Red Cross Knight, holiness, and Lady Una, truth, may also be identified with the Roman Catholic Pope. Question 4. In what sense is Spencer a pictorial artist? Answer. Spencer's rank as a pictorial artist is next to that of Shakespeare alone. Although he was not a painter, he could paint with words, colorful and decorative pictures, quite in the fashion of the European painters. The Fairy Queen is a picture gallery in luxurious details and colorful decorations. He does not paint things in their static forms, but in motion and progression. Again, he paints both the beautiful and the ugly, the grotesque and the subtle. As we read the poem, we pass through a dreamlike succession of pigeons and dissolving views of forests, lakes, caves, and palaces, mosques, and festive dances. Taking into consideration the world of human beings, Spencer draws concrete and realistic pictures of knights, ladies, queens, heroes, and warriors. For example, we get a wonderful picture of the medieval knight in the figure of the Red Cross Knight as described by the poet. A gentle knight was speaking on the plain, clad in mighty arms and silver shield. Spencer is efficient in fanciful creations in the light and color and shade of his own choice. Regarding Archimago, the arch-magician who symbolizes hypocrisy, he says, "Sober he seemed and very sagely sat, and to the ground his eyes are lowly bent." Thus in creation colorful pictures, Spencer can claim superiority over his contemporary poets. Question 5. Discuss in brief the significance of the invocation of the Fairy Queen, Book 1. Answer. The ancient epic writer conventionally invoked the help and blessings of the muse of epic poetry, who was known as Calliope. But in Spencer, in writing his epic, the Fairy Queen invokes the help not of the muse of epic poetry, but history, whose name was Clio. The poet invokes the help of the muse of history because, in the course of writing the epic, he wishes to make occasional references to historical events and personal personages. Spencer here regards Clio as the chief of the 9 muses, although actually it was Calliope who was the chief of all the muses. Thus Spencer here making an inaccurate use of classical mythology. In addition to invoking the help of Clio, Cupid, god of love, Venus, goddess of love and beauty, and Mars, god of war. Spencer seeks the patronage of Elizabeth, the reigning queen of England at that time. Those were the days when royal patronage was very important. Spencer showers glowing epithets on Queen Elizabeth, whose radiance he compared to the light of the sun favors. The invocation also gives us a glimpse into the didactic purpose of Spencer. The two chief themes of his epic are the heroic deeds of the knights and the loves of the knights and the ladies. These were the two chief pursuits of chivalry of the medieval age. But Spencer also adds a third theme to this too, and this is moral allegory, which which runs through the whole of the epic. Question 6. Write a short note on Spencerian stanza. And the Spencerian stanza is similar to rhyme royal but longer. This stanza pattern, created by Edmund Spenser, consists of 9 lines in iambic meter, rhyming A, B, B, C, B, C, C. The first 8 lines are in pentameter, and the last line is in hexameter, called Alexandrine. Spenser invented the form for his long allegorical poem, The Faerie Queene. The stanza is noted for the unifying effect of its 3 interwoven rhymes, and for the convenience of summary and tone of dignity afforded in the added length of the Alexandrine. Here is an example of Spencerian stanza taken from The Faerie Queene. And as she lay upon the dirty ground, he used long till her din all over spread, yet was in not so many bouts up wand, pointed with mortal sting, offered their breath 1,000 young ones, which she daily fed, sucking upon her poisonous dogs, each one of sundry shades, yet all ill-favoured. Soon as the uncaught light upon them shone, into her mouth they crept, and certain all were gone. Thank you, friends, for watching my video.